Welcome to Mysteries and Crime, where we unravel the darkest unsolved cases. Tonight we revisit the haunting mystery of the Beaumont children disappearances, a case that has perplexed investigators for decades. Could a new clue finally shed light on this case? Here's tonight's question. Could a different turn of events have changed everything? On January 26th, 1966, the Beaumont children, Jane, aged 9, Arnna, aged 7, and Grant, aged 4, left home on a bright summer morning, catching a bus to Glenelg Beach, a short trip from their suburban neighborhood in Somerton Park, South Australia. It was a routine outing, one they had done before. But by evening, the carefree day had turned into a nightmare. The children never came home. Their parents, Jim and Nancy Beaumont, initially hoped for a delay. Perhaps they lost track of time. But as darkness fell, worry turned to fear. Police were contacted, and the search began. Despite urgent efforts, there were no signs of struggle, no physical evidence left behind. Witness statements described a man with the children, but no definitive leads emerged. The disappearance of Jane, Arnna, and Grant Beaumont became one of Australia's greatest mysteries, a case that still haunts the nation to this day. That summer morning seemed like any other. The Beaumont children, well-behaved and responsible, left home at 10 a.m., taking a short bus ride to Glenelg Beach. They had done this before, always returning home by 2 p.m. But on that fateful day, they never came back. Their mother, Nancy Beaumont, waited anxiously as the clock ticked past their usual return time. By evening, panic set in. Their father, Jim Beaumont, returned from work, and together they searched frantically. By 8 p.m., they contacted the police. Witnesses reported seeing the children playing with a tall, blond man wearing blue swim trunks. They seemed at ease with him. Some even saw Jane, the eldest, carrying a banknote, a strange detail, as their mother had given them only small change. As the hours stretched into days, then weeks, the chilling reality set in. These children had vanished without a trace. Police scoured beaches, questioned witnesses, and drained waterways. But the deeper they searched, the darker the mystery became. Who was the man? And why did the children trust him? The Beaumont children were more than just names on a missing persons report. They were 3 young souls full of life, each with dreams, personalities, and a close sibling bond that made their disappearance all the more heartbreaking. Jane, the eldest at 9 years old, was wise beyond her years. Described as thoughtful and dependable, she naturally took on a protective role over her younger siblings. Whether helping Arnna with her schoolwork or making sure Grant didn't wander too far, Jane was always looking out for them. Her favorite color was blue, and she loved reading, often getting lost in Alice in Wonderland. At school, she was known for her kindness and her neat handwriting. Teachers saw a bright future ahead. Arnna, at 7 years old, was full of energy, always eager to explore. She had a playful, cheeky side, often making her family laugh with her jokes. She adored Jane, following her lead, but she had a strong personality of her own. She enjoyed drawing, playing dress-up, and had a fascination with animals. She often dreamed of having a pet dog. Grant, the youngest at 4 years old, was the classic baby of the family, sweet, trusting, and full of innocence. He had a habit of clinging to his mother's leg and loved being carried on his father's shoulders. His favorite toy was a small red racing car, which he carried everywhere. 3 children, 3 bright futures, stolen in an instant, and the world would never see them grow up. The case of the Beaumont children had many twists and turns, But at its center was one haunting figure, a tall blond man, estimated to be in his 30s, seen interacting with the children on Glenelg Beach. Witnesses described him as having a relaxed, almost effortless charm. He didn't appear threatening. In fact, the children seemed completely at ease in his presence. Some even suggested they had met him before. Had he been watching them for days? Weeks? Longer? Despite extensive police investigations, this mystery man was never identified, and over the years, multiple suspects emerged. One of the most disturbing was Bevan Spencer von Einem, a convicted child murderer known for luring victims with promises of safety before subjecting them to horrifying fates. His physical description bore some resemblance to witness reports, and his known crimes suggested he was capable of such an abduction. However, he would have been younger than the man seen at Glenelg Beach, leaving uncertainty about his involvement. Another name was Arthur Brown, a known predator responsible for multiple child kidnappings in Australia. His criminal history made him a person of interest, but no evidence definitively placed him at the beach that day. A later lead pointed to Harry Phipps, a wealthy Adelaide businessman with a violent past. Decades after the disappearance, former workers claimed they had been ordered to dig a deep hole on his property around the time the children vanished. Investigators searched the site but found nothing conclusive. Were these suspects truly involved, or was the real abductor someone still unknown? Had a crucial piece of evidence been overlooked? What really happened that summer day? The morning started like any other. The Beaumont children, Jane, Arnna, and Grant, left home with excitement, heading for Glenelg Beach. It was a familiar outing, one they had taken before. Their mother, Nancy Beaumont, expected them back in the afternoon. At the beach, they were spotted playing, running through the sand, their laughter blending with the sounds of summer. But then, something changed. A man was seen with them. Tall, blonde, athletic. Witnesses recalled how comfortable the children seemed in his presence. He wasn't a stranger to them, at least he didn't seem like one. They followed him without hesitation. And then, a strange clue surfaced. At a nearby bakery, Jane walked in alone. She bought a pie and some snacks, placing a neatly folded 1-pound note on the counter, but her mother had only given them coins. Where did the money come from? It suggested something chilling. Had the man been watching them for days, weeks, long enough to earn their trust? Had he met them before, subtly preparing for this moment? By the time their absence was noticed, worry had turned to fear. Their parents searched frantically, retracing their steps, asking anyone who might have seen them. But there were no clear answers. Police arrived quickly, scouring the area. The beach remained crowded with families and children playing in the surf. No signs of distress, no scattered belongings, no indication that anything violent had taken place. And that was the most unsettling part. No cries for help, no reports of a struggle, no ransom note. Just silence. A citywide search began. Witnesses were interviewed, suspects questioned, but no solid leads emerged. The footprints the children had left in the sand, like their presence, were gone, washed away by the tide. A bright summer day had slipped into a long, dark mystery, and decades later, the same question lingers. Did someone, unnoticed in the crowd, lead 3 children away, knowing they would never be seen again? From the moment the Beaumont children were reported missing, police launched an all-out search. They combed the beaches, interviewed over 100 witnesses, and distributed thousands of flyers. Every lead was followed, every suspect scrutinized. But the case was unlike anything they had encountered before. In 1966, forensic science was limited. There were no security cameras, No DNA databases. The investigation relied heavily on witness testimony, and memory, as investigators soon learned, was fragile. The most frustrating setback? The suspect had blended in too well. A friendly man on a crowded beach in broad daylight. Had he planned it perfectly? Forensic limitations plagued the case. No physical evidence, no crime scene, just absence. Years later, advancements in forensic technology sparked hope. Ground-penetrating radar was used to scan potential burial sites. Suspect homes were re-examined with modern tools, but nothing conclusive ever surfaced. Even today, forensic experts revisit old evidence, searching for microscopic traces overlooked in the past. Was there a clue still waiting to be uncovered? The disappearance sent shockwaves through Australia. Parents clutched their children tighter. Strangers became threats. The carefree innocence of 60s beach culture was shattered. The case changed daily life. Children were no longer allowed to roam freely. A generation grew up in fear. The press swarmed the story, their headlines screaming tragedy. For years, the faces of Jane, Arnna, and Grant stared back from newspapers. Speculation ran wild. Even today, documentaries and news specials keep the case alive, but no headline ever brought them home. Decades of speculation have yielded countless theories, yet none have brought closure. One of the strongest theories revolves around Harry Phipps, a wealthy Adelaide businessman with a disturbing past. Witnesses recalled seeing children near his property, and years later, workers came forward, claiming they had been ordered to dig a large hole around the time of the disappearance. Though forensic teams excavated the site, they found no remains. Another theory suggests Bevan Spencer von Einem, a convicted child murderer, could have been involved. His known crimes bore striking similarities to the Beaumont case, but no definitive link was ever established. Then there's the idea of grooming. Had the mysterious man been interacting with the children over time? Witnesses claimed Jane seemed comfortable with him, even obeying his requests. With each theory came more questions. Was the answer buried long ago, just waiting to be uncovered? The case never saw a trial. No one was ever arrested. No charges were filed. Despite police efforts, the evidence was always circumstantial. Without bodies, forensic evidence, or a concrete confession, the case remained stuck in a cruel limbo. Even when suspects were scrutinized, no proof was ever enough to make an arrest stick. Witness testimonies were inconsistent. Forensic science was primitive, and critical evidence, if it ever existed, had long since vanished. In 2019, investigators launched a fresh dig at a potential burial site linked to Harry Phipps. Hopes soared, but after days of searching, nothing was found. The case remains open. No closure, no justice. But in 2025, renewed efforts are underway, ones that could finally bring answers. In February 2025, investigators announced a final excavation at the former Castalloy Factory Site in North Plympton, an area linked to one of the case's key suspects, the late businessman Harry Phipps. Previous excavations at this site failed to uncover definitive evidence, but investigators now believe key areas may have been overlooked. Forensic teams will now conduct a comprehensive investigation, utilizing the latest ground-penetrating radar and advanced forensic methods in a last attempt to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, the Beaumont family has called for a coronial inquest into the disappearance, pushing for an official review of all existing evidence. This marks a significant step, as it could lead to new revelations or even formal charges if compelling evidence is found. Could this be the breakthrough investigators and the Beaumont family have sought for nearly 60 years? Or will this case remain one of Australia's most haunting mysteries? The Beaumont case is a ghost story etched into Australian history. What happened after the children left Glenelg Beach? Did they meet a tragic end, or were they taken somewhere far from home? And what of the man they trusted? Did he walk among crowds for years, unnoticed? These questions linger, haunting both the families and the nation. Each passing year drifts further from the truth. But could modern investigative techniques finally break the silence? Or will the Beaumont children forever remain shadows on the shore? This case reshaped Australia. Parents tightened their grip on their children's hands. Trust was replaced by fear. Even law enforcement changed. Stricter missing persons protocols were introduced. Forensic advancements prioritized. But for the Beaumonts, nothing could replace what was lost. To this day, Glenelg Beach carries the weight of their absence. Their memory lives on in stories, photographs, and the never-ending search for truth. Did you catch tonight's clue? Could a different turn of events have changed everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Join us next time for another chilling mystery. And as always, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay safe,